The biggest thing is not having super shallow content. So I see a lot of people that build a website and, just to share a story, we had, back when I was running my SEO agency, we had a client who was struggling. We couldn't figure out why. And we were just doing local SEO for him. So we'd get on his Google Maps listing, put all the keywords in there, optimize that, start building citations, kind of part of the process. And then he just wasn't making any movement. And he was obviously upset, he was complaining. So we started doing a little bit more of a deep dive. And we were really just kind of narrowly looking at this Google My Business thing. We started looking at his website and realized that he was an Italian restaurant. And nowhere on his website did he talk about being an Italian restaurant. Like, he didn't say that he served pizza or spaghetti. It was just like literally the whole website was the history of how they started. It was like, we were just some guys at a pub and then we decided to do this restaurant. Now we got a restaurant. And it's like, okay, this doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help Google. It's not a good website. So really what Google's leaning into right now is more usability, more user experience. You want to give people the answers to the questions that they have for your business on your website. So talk about your services. Give the who, what, where, when, and why on all the pages. And really just answering those questions on every page. You'll end up with a really solid, 1,000, 2,000 word page on pressure washing, paver sealing, HVAC repair, like whatever it is that you're selling. Just make sure you're answering those questions, use your keywords, but just generally talk about it and be helpful. And if the website's helpful to start and you've got things on there like the name of the business, the address, the phone number, you're going to be miles ahead of most people. I typically don't recommend that people do it on their own. There's certain things that you can do on your own, like local SEO or buying citations from like Moz Local or Bright Local. Is you can do it on your own-ish, but it can be really dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And I've seen people get some of these SEO tools and then really shoot themselves in the foot because SEO needs certain things. And it has to be a certain way and a certain cadence. And if you don't, then you end up kind of getting into a black hat area. So it's complicated enough that you can get into trouble doing it on your own. It's simple enough that you could probably do it and make some progress, but all things are relative. One of the things I always tell people about SEO is it's not like SEO is running from a bear, right? And what I mean by that is you don't have to be faster than the bear, you just have to be faster than the guy behind you, right? So if you're in a small area and you have no competition, it probably doesn't even make sense to have an SEO. Just make sure you have a good website and you fill out the content. Maybe do a little bit of optimization with Google Maps type things. You can get away with spending a lot less. If you're in New York City and there's 14 million people in the city and you're one of like 10,000 glass cleaning companies, you're going to have to really work a lot harder to outcompete people. So definitely makes way more sense to have an SEO person in those situations. And also kind of affects how much you want to pay. If you're in a place that only has 10,000 people and you're the only game in town, I really wouldn't suggest paying more than $1,000 a month for SEO. That's kind of on the low end, and realistically, you're going to get a lot of people in places like that. They're going to want to charge you like $300-400. It's going to seem like a good deal, but economically, an SEO company can't make any money doing that if they're actually doing what helps. So, if you're in a place like that, doing like a one-time project for a couple grand for an on-site optimization will probably get you pretty far. And that's what most people that are going to charge you $500 a month will do. Is they're going to go in, clean up your website, write some content, add some meta tags, and then charge you every month for the pleasure of having done that for you. But you could probably find somebody on Upwork or, maybe get a recommendation from a friend. I always suggest for SEO because it's hard to tell if they're doing a good job or not. And just do a one-time project. And if you are in a bigger city, so like for me, I'm in Phoenix, 5 million people, there's like hundreds of other cleaning businesses, so we really, really have to compete pretty hard. So we're doing regular link building and all the stuff that you have to do on-site and off-site. So all things are kind of relative there when it comes to cost. So when you're hiring an SEO is almost as much of an art as actually getting an SEO. The first and foremost, most important thing is I want to see somebody who knows what they're doing. Kind of one of the biggest things I look for is just that kind of like going to the mechanic and they're fiddling with the wrench. Like, yeah, I think I can fix this transmission. Like, you don't really want to see that from your SEO person. I like working with smaller companies. And I've had different experiences with large and small companies, but smaller companies where they maybe have under 40, 50 clients, and they're seeing results. Like, really at the end of the day, I want to see results, because SEO changes and the things that work now aren't going to work here. So I could be like, hey, make sure that they're building, doing guest posts for building links for you. But that might not work in 6 months. So the most important thing is I want there to be transparency with what they're doing. Like, if they're building links for you, I want them to share those links. I don't want those links to be spammy or public blog networks. I want them to be, leaning more into the PR side of things for link outreach, meaning, hey, we've got this news story about this business. Let's get it out there in a way that generates some buzz for the company. And you really want to have transparency. So I want them to be meeting with you once a month. Not all SEO companies are going to do that, and that's okay as long as they're sending you monthly reports and taking meetings at least when you want them. So what we're looking for with those monthly reports is I want to be tracking traffic from search volume. So a dangerous spot that a lot of people get into with the traffic from search volume is, hey, your traffic is up. And like, I had an SEO company do this to me a couple months ago. My web traffic was up, and it was, but I was running a lot of job ads. So most of these people were looking to get my money, not give me money. Very different type of traffic. So we specifically want to have how many people you're getting from search engines when we're looking at traffic. And Google Analytics can break this down for you, and any SEO company should be transparent enough to share this with you. So that's kind of the most important thing is just traffic from search. Keywords we want to see increasing. So a lot of times people will just go on a Google Search Console. There's a data point that is how many keywords you're showing up for. A lot of people like to show that, like, oh, you're showing up for 200 keywords, now you're showing up for 4,000. It's not a bad metric, but it's a good one to kind of measure. You want to see it kind of increasing, but don't get too tied up on it. Like, showing up for 5,000 keywords, 90% of them are going to be somebody searched for it once and they're never going to search for it again. So I don't lean on that too much, but it's good to see some trajectory there. One of the biggest ones is just general keyword ranking, and you want to have a keyword ranking tool that's looking in your area. Because like, if a lot of old school SEOs are still stuck on, for cleaning in my industry, home cleaning Phoenix. But I don't know if I've ever looked for a service that way. If I want a plumber, I just type in plumbing, and Google kind of does the rest to find your location. So you can build keyword ranking tools that'll measure this and do it based on like a zip code. So zip code based keywords, and you're gonna have, almost any business really only has 2 or 3 that drive all the business. So for me, just home cleaning or house cleaning or maid service, very broad keywords, give us all of our traffic. So I really, really measure those. And if I'm, starting out in position 20, I want to see that moving up slowly. And then bounce rate's another good metric to measure. It's not the end all be all, but it's another one I just kind of keep in the back of my mind. I want to see the bounce rate going down when traffic goes up. The lower the bounce rate is, the more relevant traffic you're getting. And the only time this really becomes an issue, most companies are going to have like 50% bounce rate. Half the people just kind of leave. The only time this really becomes an issue is when we're showing up for a ton of new keywords now, we're getting a ton of traffic, but it's like a 90% bounce rate. Like, that's a really big, weird red flag, and just something to kind of know about and kind of keep an eye on. So find somebody who's going to be transparent and give you reports, and then hold them accountable. And I really don't like SEO companies that are a year contract, because it really gives them all the leeway to basically do nothing for you. They'll do a little bit in the beginning, and then they'll do nothing, and then maybe right at the end, because they want you to re-sign for another year, they'll start doing some more work. it's always kind of a red flag to me that there's a year contract. So transparency and just honesty, and not trying to lock you in. I really want them to be leaning on, I want them to have confidence they're going to be able to give you results, and that they're not going to have to, lock you into a big long contract to do it. And then just make sure you're reading those reports. And the other thing with that is there's a big J curve with SEO. SEO can really take about 12 months if you're starting from zero to get into like a really good spot. It could take a year, it could take 2 years. I want to see those results. If your traffic's at zero, it's going to be zero. Then you're going to see like 100, and then maybe 110, 120. 500, 600, and it goes up. It's a big J curve. So, because like 90% of the traffic is going to be the first couple results, position 1 and 2. Until you get to position 1 and 2, you're just really not moving a ton. You're not getting a ton of traffic. So it's okay if that happens, but we want to see that kind of consistently moving. You have to keep that in the context of seasonality, because that's a thing too. Like, hey, we're off our season, so we're not really going to be able to know if we're getting more traffic until next year. That's a reality. But you can still see the keyword going up, and that's why it's so important to have kind of multiple things to look at, and just being cognizant of the fact that they are, doing some work for you. One of the biggest success stories I've had with my conquerors is we were in an all coaches meeting and we were talking about leads coming in. And this year in particular, 2023, has been relatively challenging for businesses. Most businesses are kind of focusing on increasing the bottom line and not really the top line, because things just aren't moving. There's not as much momentum in the economy as there was a couple of years ago. So I was really, really proud when I was talking to one of my groups that I had run all of them through some just kind of basic local SEO stuff to kind of help them out. And they were all telling me that they were doing like 2 or 3 times this year what they were doing last year. I'm like, yeah, the leads just keep coming in, man, and they're all coming from SEO and Google. So that made me really, really proud. And we really didn't do a ton. We kind of just focused on some local SEO, Google Maps stuff, used some tools like Moz Local, just to kind of get them ranked and get them, clean them up a little bit, and just gave them a little bit of light advice, just kind of some of the very basic stuff, which really kind of set them up for success, and it just made me super happy.